alcohol and inflammatory arthritis.
What's our story?
Inflammatory with Debbie Wilson and Katy Pieris. Navigating life with inflammatory arthritis.
Hello and welcome to Inflammatory with Debbie
And Katy.
How are you today, Katy?
I'm all right. I've just been doing cardio tennis on my lunch break, but my quad didn't like it. It felt a bit like it was cramping, but it was really weird. So I kind of did more walking cardio tennis, so not quite the same workout as normal.
Okay, so what's cardio tennis? How's that different to normal tennis?
So it's fitness class where you basically hit some balls, do some tennis drills, and the coach basically just makes you run a lot, and it's to music. I absolutely love it.
Wow, I've never heard of it before, but that sounds amazing.
No, it's really good fun, and it's really good for people who are, say, beginners at tennis, because you use balls that kids will use when they're learning to play. They're the same as a normal tennis ball, but I guess they've got a slightly different pressure, so they bounce differently, and you can't hit them as hard as like a normal tennis ball. So it makes it a little bit more of an even playing field depending on the standard of everyone there.
I might have to try it out. I'll look and see if there's one local to me.
Yeah.
Must admit, recently, apart from when my hands weren't flaring, I was doing boxercise. And that's really good. I found that so good for my mental health, because he was giving you some tips, but kind of right hook, left hook, and other boxing movements. And you had to remember that, because that was the sequence you were doing. And that's all your mind could focus on, because obviously you don't want to hit the person you're partnering with, and they then don't want to hit you. So I found that really good, just to de-stress my mind, and you get to punch things. So
no, that's what I mean. That's what I think would be, and it's the same with tennis. You kind of get into like hit a ball. I mean, when I was first diagnosed, I had to quit. So if your wrists aren't in a good place, I wouldn't advise playing tennis in any way. But now that my wrists are in a better place, I mean, it's so nice. And because cardio tennis, it's not about like playing a set or that kind of thing. It's more just like you run and hit a forehand, run and hit a backhand. Then there'll be like a drill where you swap with your partner, and then towards the end you play like silly games like they will in kids coaching. So it's great.
I will definitely look that up. Well, this week we're going to be talking about alcohol and inflammatory arthritis. And we know that it does impact on people's social lives. And for those living with inflammatory arthritis, is it good for us? Is it bad for us? So Katy, I just want to know what your experience are with drinking.
Yeah.
Do you drink?
I do, yes. I'm not going to say I don't. And I always think it's quite a tricky one, because like everything with these diseases, it's very personal. I mean, I think we all know now that alcohol isn't really good for anybody's health, but I think the difficulty for us, it's just part of our society and our culture and our social lives. When I was first diagnosed, and the DMARD that I was first put onto, because you have to have your bloods monitored and you have to be super careful about the health of your liver, I didn't completely stop, but I reduced the amount I was drinking every week. So as mentioned in some of the earlier episodes, I was in my late 20s when I was diagnosed. And I guess actually late 20s is different for everybody, because it depends what stage of your life you're in.
I had two then, so
I
had two children.
Yeah, so that's quite different, because I was thinking about this earlier. Like that sort of age, everyone can be in a completely different part of their life. I just moved in with my husband, actually. So I guess I was living further out from London, so I wasn't going out as much as possible, but my job has always been quite kind of sociable, and there's a lot of awards dinners, a lot of sort of client entertainment, and those sorts of activities. And I do remember there was a big awards event that I think I'd got an appointment anyway the next day. So it was the first time in maybe 4 or 5 years I'd not stayed over in London. I'd left before the event finished. I didn't really have anything to drink, which takes a lot of willpower when everything's for free. And I am your classic British binge drinker, where I don't really drink that much at home. I wouldn't have like a glass of wine with dinner or that thing. I drink when I'm out or I'm in a social situation. And I think the biggest danger for me is if I'm out at somebody else's house, because like when you're buying and paying for a drink, you can monitor what you're having. If someone's just filling your glass, I think that's when it gets quite tricky. So I think the very short answer is yes, I do. However, I am quite conscious of the impact it could have and thinking about trying to be a bit more careful. But yeah, old habits come back in from time to time.
Because also it could well be sort of age as well, you know, that we know that sometimes going out on a very heavy night that I'm going to be in bed for the next day. And if I've got stuff to do, I don't. But probably very much like you. I did because it took years, third years then to get me on long-term treatment. I did drink because I didn't know any different. As I said, the medications, I didn't need to be monitored so I could drink. And when I was at university, I did. But it was actually when I was 24, when I got diagnosed with reactive hypoglycemia, that I had to stop drinking because the sugar and the drinks that I was drinking was so sweet my dietitian turned around and says, if you keep drinking this, you will die. And that kind of hit me quite hard. And it's like, okay, so I stopped drinking those drinks. And if I do go out, I drink, it has to be a very dry white wine. Not much of it because, again, the alcohol can lower my blood sugar quite a lot. And I do like a gin and tonic, a slimline tonic. But I do drink at home. That's mainly, I think this is where you and I are probably slightly different. I do drink at home. When I'm cooking dinner late in the evening, I would just have a small gin and tonic or I don't even have like a third of a glass of wine. I just have that just to kind of, just to keep me going a little bit until dinner's done and then I can then properly relax.
Yeah.
But going back to when you were then, you know, diagnosed and you were on these conventional DMARDs, I was probably on one very similar. And I was then told, don't drink the day that you have it. I think medical advice is very different out there. And I did try to do some research on this. And it's a minefield out there because some researchers say, actually, no, you can drink moderately. Others say don't drink at all. Where this is what I wanted to bring to the podcast, because I think, again, it's a very personal thing, and whether you do want to drink and whether that does then impact on your joints as well. Because I must admit, if I go out on used to go on a very heavy night in my late teens, early 20s, I was probably walking in high heels and my joints the next day would absolutely kill. But that's because I didn't notice at the time. But the next day I really did notice. And actually then I realized that it's not good for me because I do like, you know, to be able to walk the next day, whether my joints are flaring or not. I try. So, but that medication side, when I was on these conventional DMARDs, I felt awful. I felt so nauseous. Actually, the last thing I wanted to do was have a drink.
Yes, yeah. And I'd say there's hangovers, so to speak, from some of those medications, I would say I found worse than an actual hangover.
Oh, they were awful. And actually, when my daughter went on them as well, that was so hard to see. And for kids that go on these medications, obviously they have to. And, you know, it's that balancing act that we always say. The medications, it's so unfortunate, it takes months for them sometimes to kick in. But so you're giving the medications to your children and knowing that actually it's not working yet, but it will. And seeing their side effects come through, because she had them on a Friday night because she didn't want to have the side effects while she's in school. But then the side effects kicked in her weekend, her free time.
Yeah, which isn't very nice. Yeah.
No. And then, but then when I did, then, you know, she's gone through transition now. So she's in young adult care instead of pediatric care. And it is starting to have those conversations with children at that younger age, because it is, as you say, it's societal things. And I think things are changing nowadays for like the Gen Z.
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
Alcohol isn't what it was when we were growing up, which I think is a very good thing. And there are mocktails and there's non-alcoholic.
And there's so many more other options. Yeah. And they're actually quite nice.
Yeah. They're probably, the thing is they're too sweet for me, so I can't even have them. So I did find it frustrating going to a pub and just drinking a Diet Coke because that is not sweet. But then it has too much caffeine in it, so I had to be careful because of my blood sugars, etc. But getting back to having that conversation with teenagers, you have to, because then also if they do go out drinking and then say they've got a blood test in a day or 2 days time, it could come back and then the consultant be like, oh, what's going on here? And so it's just making sure that you don't want to scare children, because I think sometimes that they can rebel and be a lot worse.
And actually, I was just thinking, as you're saying that, because my parents didn't let us drink anything at home, didn't really want us going to any friends' houses where there might be opportunities to drink. But in my opinion, that made, when I went to university, then the forbidden fruit was available, and it was, for me to kind of make my own choices, and I made the wrong ones and I drank too much. So I don't know how you navigate that with a child with JIA, and having those conversations and those more, I guess, honest conversations about, like, it's something you might want to do, how it could affect them. I mean, I don't know if you've got any examples from like what you've done with your daughter, or the other way around, what you would wish you'd done. I don't know.
Yeah, I think because I am very lucky that my daughter and I, well, both my daughters and I, do have a very honest relationship. And they know that, their dad goes out to the pub at weekends. I never really used to, because I was stayed at home and looked after them. So they knew that alcohol was a thing. I did have honest conversations with them. Can I have some when they were younger? It's like, well, when they're at 5 or 6, no. But when they were sort of starting in their sort of teenage years, it's like, well, just have a smell. Because even for me, I can't even smell beer. It's just not for me. You can smell it if you want. And obviously the very, very low alcohol ones, they then sort of did try. Again, because it's this thing of, I don't think anyone can ever get it right at all. Whether you stop them from having it or you let them have it, because then they might go, oh, this is really nice. And they want to keep having them, because the ciders, they get onto ciders and they are very sweet. And one I did taste.
I don't like cider.
Ribena. It was, for me, it was horrid, but but it is just being open and honest with them. And just, because obviously they would know that they have to have blood tests anyway. And just making sure, it's just trying to empower them to understand why they have to have their blood tests. You may not want to sort of say that, it may damage their liver.
Yeah, because that's the thing. It's the sort of scary side, because I was really scared by all that when I was reading all the leaflets.
Oh,
so
I
don't know how you can navigate that as a parent, and knowing that your child wants to, it's part of growing up as well, isn't it?
I would say in the UK, definitely.
Yeah.
I think our culture does seem very different to the ones in Europe, but in Europe they do drink as well. They were drinking that with their meals.
Yes,
and I think
that's where there's a bit of a difference.
Yeah, because we would just drink for the sake of drinking, whereas as I say, in Europe they drink with dinner, and I think that's probably the better way to start introducing it. Just have it with a meal. And thankfully my eldest, she's coming off her medication, so she doesn't have to be as wary with them. But I just think for all health, though, our relationship with alcohol has got to change in society. I think it thankfully is changing slightly.
Yes. So difference with people at work who are in their 20s versus us who are like 40
Older.
Plus.
Yeah.
Older. The difference in what people might do with their evenings, it's not about going for a drink after work. It might be going and playing paddle or going to a run club.
Yeah.
That's like a run club and a matcha seems to be the kind of cool thing to do.
Oh, I must admit that is good. And I also was going to say, it's probably the cost of alcohol as well. The cost of going out to drink.
Yes.
It is. It's not cheap. Especially, you know, I suppose lucky, but then sometimes unlucky. We live close to London, and then going out in London is not cheap at all. So there is that. And actually, whether you want to go out drinking or, as you say, do something that's better for your health. And I think it's great that they're doing that.
Yeah.
I really do.
100%.
But would you say, though, after you've been out drinking, not a heavy night, but do you find that impacts on your joints the next day or not? Or is it hard to say?
I think it's really hard to say. So I think I've spoken previously that quite often I used to get a flare up in December, and that felt like it was the accumulation of nights of drinking, eating poor food. So for me, just a one-off, I don't think I see a next day impact. But for me, it's more that sort of accumulation. If I was to do it a couple of weeks in a row or a couple of nights in the same week, that's when I would have a problem, because I've always been one of those irritating people who I can go out, then the next day I could run a half marathon and I'd not be okay, but I'd be able to get through it. If you know,
Okay.
a slight exaggeration, but I don't really suffer too badly with hangovers.
Okay. No, I never used to, but I must admit I do now. But because I think, again, another reason we're talking about this is because it is coming up to, you said December. I'm not going to mention the C word at all. But people are planning that in now. And actually, does it make you feel anxiety about going out for parties and drinking with work colleagues? Because it is also not just the drinking side. Then if you've got to look nice. I'm quite old fashioned though, thinking I'd have to wear heels and that.
I've got some beautiful flat gold boots. I've got trainer. I don't really wear heels anymore ever. Even though I do still have some, because I think for some reason I've got something stupid inbuilt about weddings. And actually, again, not that I go to any anymore, which I'm too old.
I think they're more divorce parties that I'm invited to. But yeah, I think because I actually went to an event this week with Watford and Three Rivers. They had a community event and I went to network and I met some amazing people who were actually helping us out with the charity, especially kind of IT side, the things that go on behind the scenes. And I did actually wear smart trousers and some small heels that I bought. And my knees the next day was like, oh my God, I can't do it anymore. And so if I had to go and look smart somewhere, it would be I'd have to get. But I find flat shoes are the same though. If they're completely flat, they do the same because and they're not good for your feet at all. We'll have to get another episode on about feet. But I have to have some gradient and a slight cushion as well, because otherwise my knees do just get that full impact. So yeah, so again, it ties in with anxiety side, what you're going to wear, how much you're going to drink, because as you say, it is very easy when they just come and top your wine up.
Yeah, the other thing for me as well, I can never leave anything. I find it so I can set myself like I'm going to get the 9:25 train home, but then I suffer with horrendous FOMO. Not that anything exciting is ever going to happen. I can't leave.
No, I'm a bit like that.
If anyone knows how to help me with that, please tell me. Like I'm so I've got and actually I'm filling myself with anxiety now. I've got a work dinner on Tuesday, and I need to set myself an alarm because everybody else, it's in London, and quite a few people are staying over. And it's okay if you're staying in a hotel that's like 5 minutes away.
Yeah.
But when you've got to get an hour and 15 train home, you need to factor that into your bedtime hour. Oh, that's the thing I find really hard. And then if you're terrible at leaving things, you end up drinking more. But so I've got some friends that by 9 p.m. they will always stop drinking.
That's really good. It's like even sometimes when I'm out, it depends who I'm out with. Just think the last time I was in London instead of buying me a glass of wine, he just kept buying bottles of wine. I just didn't realise how much I was then drinking. And then I didn't realise the time. It was like, oh gosh, it's midnight, I've got to get home.
Yeah.
But then I think it's, I'm trying to think of the word, it's discipline. You just need that discipline. And
self-discipline.
And I'm not genuinely that good at self-discipline, I'm now realising. But I suppose it's just training yourself to try and be more like that.
So when I've run marathons, I've been quite disciplined like the month before. I won't drink because of impact that will, I mean, at my level, we're talking not really that much impact. It's not like I'm trying to get a world record.
They're not like a Paula Radcliffe.
No, but in my mind, I think, it'll help. Yeah, who knows? I mean, I've still never run the time I wanted to.
Maybe one day you might. I know you're not going to do any more, but maybe with your 10Ks you might though.
Yeah, so I can be disciplined if there's a real reason, is what I think I'm trying to say. But why can't I just do it all of the time? I feel like this is a therapy session, Debbie.
I wish I knew the answers. I really don't. But I must admit, though, I'm also rubbish with self-discipline. I'm not very good at all. But then I find also the next day I am so much more fatigued. Whether that is just whether even if I haven't had that much alcohol, I will feel. But it's probably because I've been out a bit later, not having my normal routine. And I think Sarah picked up on this when we spoke to her a couple of weeks ago, that she does seem to be very self-disciplined and she will stop and then she will go home. And it is hard, but I think it's also trying to put yourself first and actually realizing what is good for your health and what's not. And whether you're flaring as well, I think so. But then if I'm flaring, I generally won't go out, because I think, again, I mentioned last week's episode, when it's painful, I do not want to be involved in society. Not. I just rather be at home and just sit with myself. But it is hard, because it is that impact on our social lives and our lives that unless you didn't have inflammatory arthritis, you wouldn't know that all these things have to go on behind the scenes. And actually, again, it's that balancing thing of whether you do go out and what the consequences are, or if you don't, because again, you've then got that fear of missing out. So it is because as you've said, the kind of balance of, what you'll get out of the social occasion, but then what's the pain point of the next day as a result of that. Completely. Yeah, so it is, again, it's very personal. It's what is good for you. And I do just think it is a tough one, because when I had to stop, I did stop drinking when I was pregnant as well. And I must admit, after that, I didn't fancy drinking at all, because I just thought I have to get up during the night to feed my kid, and I can't do that, because it sometimes do not recommend, drinking at all, unless moderation. But then I did find, though, that alcohol did make me that bit more tired. And so I knew that if I was flaring, it wouldn't take the pain away at all, but it would just help me sleep that little bit better.
Yeah, because there are, some people, my dad's always said, if you've got a cold, like some whiskey.
Hot toddy.
Because But I think really, if you're thinking scientifically, that's probably a load of rubbish. But mentally, it sometimes feels like it works.
Yeah, because I think it could just relax you that little bit more. Sometimes alcohol does relax. Sometimes it doesn't. It does the opposite. But again, it's very personal, and what's right for you isn't right for me.
And that's why, so at home, that's why I have CBT drinks. It gives you that kind of relaxant, but without the alcohol. But I'm sure in a few years' time there'll be problems with that as well that come out.
Yeah, probably, who knows. But it's, again, I just think I'm glad we've spoken about this, because it's good to know how you feel is how I sometimes feel as well. And you have to be very careful, I think, with the medications that you're on, and just being very honest and open. If you are going to have, say, a blood test and you have been drinking the night before, just let your consultant just be aware the liver impact may be slightly different, and it could well be normal, but then you might have to go and have a repeat blood test as well. So obviously, this is again why we're talking about alcohol today, is living with inflammatory arthritis is not just living with the disease, it's living with the whole aspect of society, and actually how that impacts on our disease and how we live. But we want to try and live a normal life, whatever that is. But it's always having these decisions day in, day out, in what's good for you, what's not good for you, how are you feeling? Do you think that you could go out, if you wanted to go out? That's another decision straight away that you have to make. Are you in the right frame of mind? How are your joints feeling? Can you go out? And then what do you wear as well? So it is just having all of that involved in our lives with inflammatory arthritis. So I do hope
it's a lot. It's a lot.
It really is. Well, we've done 29 episodes of it so far, so there's still a lot more to come. But thank you so much for listening. I hope there's something that, has resonated there. And if you've got any hints and tips, please put them on social media for us. We would love to hear your relationship with alcohol. And, as a parent as well, would you tell your children about it? How do you tell your children? But don't forget, there is our survey going out. And we've had amazing feedback so far. And I know people do want to hear more from our guests. So we'll be getting a lot more guests on the podcast and hearing more from ourselves as well, just the daily realities of what we go through. And you can also now watch the episodes on YouTube. So you can subscribe to our channel. It'll all be in the show notes, and you get to watch the episodes as well. But don't forget, we're also on social media. We are on Facebook, Blue Sky, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Please do like, comment, and follow. And please rate the podcast wherever you get the podcast from. And until next week, it's goodbye.
Goodbye.